What's up, everybody? D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be continuing my version of Godzilla vs. Kong, talking about Act 2 of my movie. I know there's a lot that happened in Act 1. We kind of have like a 4-act structure because mine starts out with that little flashback scene to the events of Godzilla King of the Monsters. I know I'm going to come off as super redundant here, but I want to make it very clear to new viewers who are watching this video what the parameters I set on my version of the story are so that no one's confused going into it. I also want to make it clear that chapter times are in the description so you can skip this recap if you've already seen all the stuff in the previous videos. I'm following up on everything that I possibly can set up in the Monsterverse. That means all the Monsterverse events have already happened, no retcons, comics, novelizations are canon, Oxygen Destroyer gone off, nearly killed Godzilla, Godzilla knows humanity's the one that detonated it, Godzilla also recognizes that Serizawa, a human, saved him, so he's a bit conflicted on what to do with the human race in this movie. Godzilla's temple has been destroyed, he can no longer access his Hollow Earth entry point, the only Hollow Earth entry point left for him is on Skull Island, and he is reluctant to use it. This results in Godzilla being weaker because he no longer has the radiation from the Hollow Earth to fuel him. Houston Brooks and Aaron Brooks have returned. Aaron Brooks led an outpost on Skull Island called Outpost 33. Houston Brooks is one of the leaders of Monarch. Dr. Chen's line, Godzilla may be on our side for now, but not forever, is relevant to this movie. The public knows about Titans, they know about Skull Island. Godzilla's been keeping all the Titans in check for the first half year following Godzilla King of the Monsters. Titan products have become very valuable on the black market. Seismic disturbances and instability has occurred on Skull Island. All the skull crawlers rose up, caused a lot of damage. New Titans have been drawn to the island by Godzilla. He sent them all to the island. Monarch is also prepping to explore the Hollow Earth there, but they weren't able to because they had to uproot from the island due to all the increased Titan activity. Rumors of a mechanical Titan being constructed on Skull Island have been followed through with, as we did see Monarch was in the process of building Mechagodzilla. Kong has since destroyed Mechagodzilla after it was reactivated, and an orca inside his head attracted Godzilla towards the island. Mothra's egg has been discovered and will be followed up through in the last part of this series. The public is aware of the cave painting showing Godzilla and Kong fighting. Ghidorah's head has been obtained by Alan Jonah. I'm also trying to use as much of the existing cast for the movie as possible, and I'm trying to keep everything that we possibly know is going to happen in Godzilla vs. Kong in this version of the story as well, and that sets up everything that I'm working with. So minor spoilers for Godzilla vs. Kong, as I did use some slight actual plot points from the movie, but everything else is all created by your boy. Alright, so I tried to recap as well as talk about the parameters all at once, but I'll do a really quick recap here. Skull Island went crazy after the mass awakening. People died. A year later, everyone went back to the island to find out what's going on, and they activated Mechagodzilla. A group called Apex activated them to use the ORCA to attract Godzilla towards the island, and that's where we're picking up is Alexander Skarsgård character, who wound up being a bad guy, has been captured by Monarch along with some Apex soldiers. This leads into round 1. Kong locks onto an aircraft taking off that belongs to Apex. He chases it to the edge of the island onto a beach where everything starts to rumble. The aircraft carrier that's docked in the sea suddenly is hit with an enormous wave and winds up beaching in the shallows off Skull Island. The wave stops Kong dead in his tracks. He's no longer pursuing the Apex vehicle. He looks up to see Godzilla rising from the ocean and coming ashore. Godzilla climbs up onto the aircraft carrier and Kong stands opposite of him. He goes to approach him. So Kong stands on the other end of the aircraft carrier and the two of them face off. The reason it doesn't sink is because it's beached on the shallows of Skull Island. It does get destroyed under their weight, however, but that only happens once they start to move on it. So Kong shows up hoping to stop Godzilla from entering his island. He doesn't quite realize what's going on yet. Godzilla recognizes Kong's species and is completely thrown off by it. He's not expecting any of Kong's species to still be alive, which leads him to be confused. He roars at Kong, letting Kong know exactly who he is. Kong hears the roar and recognizes it as the Alpha outside the island. That means that this is the Titan that nearly killed the only thing he has companionship with. This is the Titan that led the other Titans towards his island and got the Iwi almost wiped out. The two of them stand off and it's revealed that Godzilla is still 393 feet, so he's almost 400 feet tall. Meanwhile, Kong stands about 100 feet shorter. Kong is only 300 feet tall in my version of the movie. A fight breaks out with the two of them. Kong strikes first, and that's where we see the clip that was shown at Comic-Con, but that's that's where that Comic-Con clip comes from. The two of them on the aircraft carrier. The battle begins. The aircraft carrier crumbles beneath them. They battle. Meanwhile, Monarch evacuates the island once more. They're like, well, we gotta go. There's a relatively short fight between Godzilla and Kong that occurs during daytime, so it is a daytime fight. That's what we all want to see, right? Maybe there's a storm in the background that creates that silhouette shot we have seen so many times now, that leaked shot, but basically it's a daytime fight. I mean, it's a well-lit fight. It's happening either at sunset or daytime. Godzilla is clearly weaker in this fight than he used to be, and he is hardly able to keep up with Kong. Kong gets the upper hand on him almost immediately. Godzilla uses his atomic breath to temporarily knock Kong out because Kong's never dealt with anything like it. They've battled their way onto the island by this point, I feel like I should say. So he's not just shooting him on the aircraft carrier. They've already fought on the aircraft carrier. They moved onto the island. Kong's never dealt with anything like the atomic breath before, so he doesn't realize what's going on. He watches Godzilla's tail and back charge up, and he doesn't quite understand it. And then he gets shot directly in the face by the atomic breath, knocking him out temporarily. So the atomic breath does damage my version of Kong significantly. Rather than focusing on Kong, Godzilla searches around for the ORCA. He's trying to figure out what was creating that alpha call because he knows it wasn't Kong. He searches the Monarch Outpost and finds the remains of Mechagodzilla. This is where Godzilla realizes that humanity has crossed a line and will continue to cross line after line unless they're put back in check. Kong appears again using a large tree to combat Godzilla. Suddenly Godzilla has this weird shift where all of a sudden he becomes much more aggressive than he used to be. That doesn't really help him though because he's kind of thrown off by it. Kong gains the upper hand and is able to nearly defeat Godzilla. Like I said, Kong does use a large tree to combat Godzilla during this. He doesn't shove it down Godzilla's throat or anything, but I wanted to pay homage to that scene from King Kong vs. Godzilla, and if you are to believe what Adam Wingard has said about the movie, we should see that scene paid tribute in the new film as well. So this is my version of doing that, as Kong uses it as a bat, similar to what he does in Kong Skull Island. Kong grabs onto Godzilla, and Godzilla uses the last of his atomic energy to fire off a nuclear pulse. This is the last nuclear pulse he's ever going to use, by the way. This vaporizes most things around him and severely injures Kong. This isn't like the atomic breath, it severely injures Kong. Godzilla then retreats into the massive Hollow Earth vent that has been opened up where the Boneyard used to be. So the Boneyard has collapsed away into a massive Hollow Earth point, and that's where Godzilla enters to escape from Kong. Kong collapses on the ground before realizing that the atomic pulse has wound up vaporizing the last of the Iwi village. He is now super pissed off, but he's too weak to do anything about it. He tries to chase Godzilla into the Hollow Earth, but he can't. He's too weak and he passes out. This leads into an aftermath portion. Mark and Chen join the squad back at Monarch's Atlantic Outpost, their Atlantic version of Castle Bravo, if they haven't already. I don't really know what Mark and Chen are doing during this movie, but I know I want them heavily involved, so I'm trying to either reintroduce them here or they've already been on this outpost for one reason or another. They're trying to figure out what's going on. They're trying to make sense of everything. During this section, they would learn that Alexander Skarsgård is an Emma Russell sympathizer. He saw her broadcast when she created the Mass Awakening, and he agreed with her. He agreed with everything she said. He was able to get in contact with Alan Jonah following the events of Godzilla King of the Monsters and has been an informant for him ever since. This is how Alan Jonah knew to send his men Apex, who we find out Apex is the group led by Alan Jonah, to send them onto Skull Island so that they could wait for Monarch's new mission, so that they could ambush them and use the ORCA that they knew was implanted in Mechagodzilla to attract Godzilla to the island. I know it's a little complicated and it will get much more convoluted later. Again, the only reason that's the case is because there's so many different plot lines that I'm trying to follow up on that feel like they were set up in Godzilla King of the Monsters that I'm trying to finish so that this could theoretically be the last of the MonsterVerse movies. So there's just a lot that I feel like I'm having to force into my version of the film. Basically, we find out that Jonah's motives here, because Skarsgård is a coward and just tells everybody everything. He's kind of a good guy, but also a bad guy at the same time. He's helping Alan Jonah, but he's not fully committed to him. So he's also still with Monarch. And so here's where he's going to spill the beans and kind of play both sides in a certain sense. That's really what he's doing, is he's playing both sides so that no matter who wins, he can win. We find out that Alan Jonah wants Godzilla and Kong to fight each other to kill one another. If they're both dead, there will no longer be an alpha to protect the human race from the other titans. Jonah knows that these two are old rivals, just like Godzilla and Ghidorah, due to the cave painting of them fighting being released to the public. Meanwhile, Apex is back on the ground. They never actually left. Although they did fly away, they never left the island. They circled back around, and they are using DNA extracted from King Ghidorah to enhance Kong. After watching Kong in battle, they realize that he is not able to go toe-to-toe with Godzilla even when Godzilla's weakened. So they keep Kong sedated using toxic gas or something. I have no idea. Kong's sedated, or he's just knocked out as a result of being weak, and they try and enhance him using Ghidorah's DNA. They think that Kong can't go toe-to-toe with Godzilla on his own. They're going to be wrong. Kong, as we're going to find out later. Mark realizes what's going on. He figures out, oh, if Jonah's plan is to get them to fight each other, he's clearly still involved. He convinces everyone to send G-Team out to the island, and G-Team is dispatched, and they are able to stop Apex. They're successfully able to prevent the bio-enhancing of Kong, or at the very least, they cut it short. So we don't know the extent to which Kong has been enhanced, but we know that he has been infused with at least some of Ghidorah's DNA. But Monarch and G-Team was able to stop that process from continuing. And it doesn't seem like anything's happened to Kong. He has no physical changes, nothing outwardly changes about him. He's also not going to get stronger as a result of this. He's not going to be able to punch harder. He's not going to be able to run faster. He's not going to be able to regenerate skin or anything like that. He's not going to be able to tank the atomic breath any better. This is simply to set up something later, as we'll talk about, but it's also to pay off the Godzilla King of the Monsters post-credit scene. So now we know what they were going to do with Ghidorah's DNA. They were going to use it to enhance Kong, and we see how they enhance Kong later on, but again, it's not going to be something that like buffs Kong up so that he can fight Godzilla. Kong fighting Godzilla is still going to be normal Kong fighting Godzilla. That way Kong isn't enhanced, and we don't have to have any debates about, oh, would Kong even be able to go toe-to-toe with Godzilla in a fight if he wasn't enhanced? I solved it. Don't worry about it. We're well aware of those questions, and so we're gonna see what happens with this DNA enhancing later. Godzilla appears off the coast of China. Oh no. He used the Hollow Earth to get there. He created a new Hollow Earth entrance near China. Now there's at least another Hollow Earth entrance point for him to use, and now he can continue to create them if he uses that one to swim around the world. I just wanted a way for Godzilla to have a new Hollow Earth entrance point that doesn't involve him going to Skull Island, and I also wanted it to be that he's weaker at the start of this movie as a result of not being able to get back to the Hollow Earth. So that's how I'm trying to work with it at the moment. He is slightly re-energized by the radiation in the Hollow Earth, but it wasn't enough to get him back to where he used to be in terms of strength. So in order to make up for that, Godzilla goes after nuclear power plants on the Chinese coast. I told you we were going to work with some of my original idea for the movie. He goes after nuclear power plants and starts destroying them and consuming the energy from them, Godzilla 84 style. During this, Godzilla appears conflicted about what he's doing. He doesn't want to be going after the human race. He doesn't want to be destroying our stuff, but he realizes that we've stepped out of line and we can't be helped. And he's also incredibly angry. Monarch finds out, they track the ORCA signal, and they find out that Godzilla was drawn to China with the use of the ORCA, and it's still active. Here we find out that although Godzilla was aware and grateful to Serizawa's sacrifice, he is fed up with humanity and is sick of us stepping out of line. Mechagodzilla was the last straw. It was always about getting Godzilla to Skull Island so that he could see Mechagodzilla, so that he could realize that humanity was a problem. That way he would feel unrestricted when the ORCA is used to draw him to these locations to do what he needs to do. And what he needs to do in this case is consume radiation. So it was always about getting Godzilla and Kong to cross paths, yes, but their ulterior motive was also to get Godzilla to Skull Island so he could discover the Mechagodzilla that was on the island. I know, like I said, it's convoluted, and I hate how convoluted it is, but I'm trying to follow up on all these plot lines that were set up in the last movie because there's too many of them. There's too many plot lines. So that's the reason it's convoluted. And I'm aware that it's convoluted. That's the issue. So it was always about getting Godzilla and Kong to cross paths and fight, but it was also about getting Godzilla to realize humanity is not a good thing, so that Godzilla can go after humanity, Kong can go after Godzilla, and they can hopefully kill each other, and in the process, Godzilla can take out some of humankind. Kong wakes up, he's on the island, and he heads after Godzilla. He uses the Hollow Earth, or he swims. I don't know. It's up to you to decide. It doesn't really matter. He goes after Godzilla, headed towards China. He knows Godzilla's over there because the ORCA is still being active over there, and Kong can recognize the ORCA's pattern, even if he's not responding to it the way Godzilla is. So it's not targeting Kong. Like I said, these are prototype ORCAs that Apex is using. They're not using the actual ORCA. The ORCAs we see in this movie target Godzilla specifically rather than all Titans on Earth, which is why we don't have another mass awakening situation, why Rodan doesn't show back up, everything like that. So Godzilla is destroying stuff in China, and Kong heads after him, and that is the end of Act 2. Thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time for the final one for Act 3 when you find out who wins the fight. D-Man, out.